timeline shenanigans. You know, I'm sorry. Am I though? I don't know. Hello everyone, Fina here from Fina Reads, and welcome back to my channel today with another review for SPSFC2, or the self-published science fiction competition number 2. And this time I'm going to talk about Aestus, book 1, The City by S.Z. Attwell, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name. 2 disclaimers. 1, this is just my opinion for the book. It does not reflect my team's opinion. Disclaimer number 2, this video will go up after we announce the semi-finalists, so go check out, if you're interested in that, go check out other videos on my channel, because I will be announcing the semi-finalists. By the time I'm recording this, I will be. By the time you're watching this, I already did, so but this is my review for one of the quarterfinalists. Aestus, book 1 in the City, was the chunker for us, and with close to 700 pages, 694 to be exact, we all were sitting there and was like, oh man, we have to read this, and we were all worried about it just taking forever because of the length. But we shouldn't have been worried, because it was actually a really quick read. And I will tell you about that, but first I wanted to do a quick summary to tell you more about what the book is about. Then we go into world building and character development. I'll tell you a little bit about the writing style. Then I will talk about who I think this book is for versus not, and some of my personal thoughts. So in some of the other reviews, I read just the blurb on the back of the book, or the Amazon review. For this one, I will just do a quick summary myself, because I felt that I expected the book to be something different than it ended up being based off of the blurb. Aestus is a dystopian YA sci-fi romance novel. It has a lot of faults in a lot of categories, that is about a society that mostly lives underneath the earth. So the city that they're living in is underneath the surface, because everything above the surface is too hot to survive. But life has generally been good, you know, they lived their lives, they worked, they did what they had to do to survive, and everything has been fine except for the occasional attack from the vicious Onler. But lately, those attacks have become more, and something just seems to be off. So that's actually all that I want to tell you about it, because I think the most fun of this book is to discover everything that is happening there. To get into the world building and character building, so Aestus itself is set in a pretty contained world. The city is located in kind of a Middle Eastern area of Earth, and even though there is no world building per se, there is a lot of history to the city and to that group that is, or that society that is living underneath the surface. Throughout the book, you learn a lot about where they are coming from, what the reason for the war was, how the city functions, how society in general works there, like politics, army, all those kind of things, which adds a lot of depth to the book and the story itself. And it feels like Attwell actually put a lot of thought into, you know, what is reasonable from the backstory, from the history for a novel like that, to make it not just a YA romance novel or YA sci-fi romance novel, but add a lot more color to it. Having said that, it is still very much a YA sci-fi romance. So it is very, like, it has all the tropes in it, from pining to love triangle to twists and turns. Yeah, and all of these tropes also include a ginormous cliffhanger ending at the end of book 1, which is why I read book 2 right after. I had to know how it continues. Although when I talked with her a little bit, just generally, because I wanted to know if it is a longer series or if it is meant to be a duology, she mentioned at one point that she actually was only planning on writing 1 book, but because, you know, her muse struck and she just had the characters experience even more, she decided to split it in 2 books eventually. So she is pretty open on, you know, her writing style, and that she didn't plot out everything, and that she let the characters kind of experience their life as she was writing them. And I actually like what it did to the book because the characters are very interesting. They're all unique, which I really enjoyed. And you're going through everything with them. You fall in love with them. You're sad together with them. You get annoyed at them being naive at certain situations. Going into the writing style, and Ian, who is also a team member of Dragons in Space, he said that Aestus has the making of a viral sensation, and I very much agree with that. Her writing is on par, if not better, with some of the biggest names in fantasy romance, like Victoria Aveyard or, you name it. She definitely knows how to write a fast-paced, highly entertaining story. And I told you it has 700 pages. I read that thing in 3 days. That's how good it was. And I just did not want to put this book down because there were constantly moments where I was just sitting there like, I now need to know what happens. Like, you cannot throw this out there and then expect me to turn around and fall asleep. It just doesn't work that way. She gets to the point. She writes the right things. She knows how to describe scenes and action scenes and the environment, and it's just everything is good. Like, the writing is really on point. Who might like this? Who doesn't? Well, if you don't like YA romance, this is not going to be the book for you. I'm sorry. There is a lot of, the typical stuff with, oh, does he like me? Does he like me not? And why does she not understand that I love her? She was releasing the breath that she didn't know she was holding. Like, there's a lot of this very YA typical stuff in there, but she is not overusing it, which I really enjoy. So if you do like YA romance, you should definitely pick up Aestus to see what a sci-fi version of that will do for you. Do not get scared by 700 pages. As I said, it is a super fast read. Book 2, which is a bit more than 500 pages, I read that in 1 day essentially. So I started at night on day 1 and then finished it by the next day. So I read both of these books, 1,200, 1,300 pages in 5 days. I don't know. I don't think I've ever done this. So it's really entertaining and is one of the better YA romance books out there that I've read in my life. And again, then what I also enjoy is it's not like fantasy, which was a big hype over the last years. It is a sci-fi version of it, and it's set in a dystopian future, and it has a lot of grittiness and depth and just stuff that you can still hold on to in it, that it is not just about the romance. Let's get into personal opinions. I mean, I like this book. Like, I don't know how else to say that. I had a blast with this. That's what we are now talking about book 2 as well. I will not spoil anything, of course. Out of the two, book 1 is definitely my favorite. So in book 1, you have all that build up, all of the discoveries and twists, and you realize things are not how they seem to be. And book 2 is then more about the dealing with what you discovered. So there's a lot of truth uncovering. So you have a lot of dialogue with the different characters that have the conversation on like, did you know? And basically handling the fallout of the discovery of book 1. So it's not as fast-paced anymore. It is still written very well. Like the writing style, the general storytelling, the additional reveals that you get here and the additional things that happen here are really good. And you have a very satisfying ending in book 2 as well, which I find important, when you have a series. So when I talked with the author about, generally what's your goal and is it a duology or is it a series? She said she wants to write more books in the universe, but you can read those two. So it would be another story arc rather, I think, what it's going to be, because if you read those two, you'll be fine. Like, it has a complete ending. Sure, there's still a little bit ambiguity onto, general future of what's happening here, but that story that you discover here is completely covered and closed out. So there's nothing open at the end of the day, including the love interest. Having said that, I am not okay with how that ended. No, I'm not. Like, I was on a different team, and once you read Aestus, you can ask me down in the comments what team I'm on. I'm not going to spoil anything in this video. If you decide to pick it up, and if you read both books, let me know down in the comments which team you are on, and if you think the love interest part of it resolved in a way you thought was satisfying, or if you are on a different team. Anyway, But again, this is personal opinion, right? Overall, I loved it. As I said, book one by far my favorite, and potentially even a favorite for the year. I mean, it just started, so we have to see how the year continues. But this, so far, really impressive, and I'm really excited to read more by S.C. Attwell and see what other books she comes up with. That is it for now for my review for Aestus. If you haven't yet, feel free to subscribe to my channel and check out some of the other Team Dragons in Space, Spacefic, Quarterfinalist review videos that I've done. Oh my goodness, say this 3 times fast, because I've put out a bunch of them already, and by the time you're watching this, I will also have put out the announcement of who made it into the semifinalists for Team Dragons in Space. So don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like the video if you did. Let me know if this is a book you would be interested in reading, and if you were looking for a new fantastic YA romance in a sci-fi setting, and if you're interested in picking it up. And then I'll just hope you have a great rest of your day, and that I'll see you soon with my next videos. Bye!